Tonight, President-elect Trump escalating his ongoing battle with the U.S. intelligence community, tweeting just days before the high-profile briefing, the, quote, intelligence briefing on so-called, quote, Russian hacking was delayed until Friday. Perhaps more time needed to build a case. Very strange. Intelligence officials are pushing back, denying there was ever a delay in the briefing and that it was always scheduled for Friday. Trump also siding with WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, a man wanted by the U.S. for leaking classified information, who in an interview with Fox News denied Russia had anything to do with handing over the stolen documents from the DNC and Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta.
We have said repeatedly over the last 2 months that our source is not the Russian government and it is not a state party.
Trump tweeting, Julian Assange said a, quote, 14-year-old could have hacked Podesta. Why was DNC so careless? Also said Russians did not give him the info. On Capitol Hill today, Vice President-elect Mike Pence defended Trump's skepticism.
The President-elect has expressed his very sincere and healthy American skepticism about intelligence conclusions. But we're going to sit down later this week.
U.S. officials tell CNN Trump's continued public attacks are hurting morale in the intelligence community, with one official saying it's a sad day when politicians put more stock in Vladimir Putin and Julian Assange over the Americans who risk their lives providing objective, nonpartisan intelligence analysis. CNN has learned Trump has already been briefed by intelligence officials on the Russian hacks, but that the comprehensive report due this week will provide a fuller picture of why the U.S. is putting the blame on Russia.
I would suggest to individuals who have not yet seen the report, who have not yet been briefed on it, that they wait and see what it is that the intelligence community is putting forward before they make those judgments.
You've shown what it means to pull together. So my days as your Commander-in-Chief are coming to an end, and as I reflect on the challenges we have faced together and on those to come, I believe that one of the greatest tasks before our armed forces is to retain the high confidence that the American people rightly place in you. This is a responsibility not simply for those of you in uniform, but for those who lead you. It's the responsibility of our entire nation. And so we are called to remember core principles. That we must never hesitate to act when necessary to defend our nation, but we must also never rush into war, because sending you into harm's way should be a last and not first resort. It should be compelled by the needs of our security and not our politics. We need to remember that we must not give in to the false illusion of isolationism, because in this dangerous time, oceans alone will not protect us, and the world still seeks and needs our leadership as the one indispensable nation. We have to remember that our military has to be prepared for the full spectrum of threats, conventional and unconventional, from 20th century style aggression to 21st century style cyber threats. And when we do go to war, we have to hold ourselves to high standards and do everything in our power to prevent the loss of innocent life, because that's what we stand for.
Rex Tillerson, Donald Trump's nominee for Secretary of State, if he does not agree with your assessment, if he does not see what you see and others see with regard to Russia, does he have your vote?
He'll have a hard time getting my vote because it's clear. Again, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes. What bothers me is that President-elect Trump seems to get the Chinese for what they are. The Iranian agreement is bad. He understands that. He understands the threat we face from ISIL. And he understands we can't let the North Koreans build an ICBM to attack our homeland. When it comes to Russia, he seems to have a blind spot, and I'm completely perplexed because the Russians are undermining democracy throughout the entire world. They're taking land owned by others by force. They did hack into our political system. They're doing it to other political systems, and they need to pay a price. So sanctions are coming, President-elect Trump. I hope you will, after Friday, understand that the Russians did interfere in our election. You're the legitimate president. They didn't change the outcome, but they did release information embarrassing to the Democratic Party. It did affect Hillary Clinton. It wasn't hacking into the vote itself, but it could happen to Republicans in the next election by Iran or China if you don't push back now.
What's up?
I'm gonna attack you all together.
Really? Is it good?
I think so. Okay. This feels so awkward.
Yeah?
Okay. I'm gay.
Okay, look, you guys, there's pretty much one burger for everybody. I got them all with tomatoes, onions, and pickles, so just pick off whatever you don't want.
I can't sit.
Oh, really? Because it would be
I'm freaking out.
You got accepted in a
Why are you freaking out?
medical school. We have established our family the way that we've chose to. We've organized it the way we wanted to, and we believe that all people should be allowed that right.
Does that right extend to gay marriage?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, everybody should structure the way that they want. We truly believe that.
It'll literally begin on day one. Before the end of the day, we do anticipate that the president-elect will be in the Oval Office taking action to both repeal executive orders and also set into motion through executive action policies to implement promises that were made on the campaign trail.
Pence also said Trump will also work in concert with congressional leaders for a smooth transition to a market-based healthcare reform system through legislative and executive action. Outgoing U.S. President Obama made a rare trip to Capitol Hill to urge Democratic lawmakers to protect the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. White House spokesman Josh Earnest has warned abolishing the measure will wreak havoc because 22 million people will lose their medical insurance.
Domenico? I just want to give you a little bit of numbers on the last time Donald Trump held a press conference and now that he's promising one on the 11th and possibly the 12th. You know, it's been 160 days since he's held a press conference. We have a widget on our website on npr.org that you can check out. He's tweeted 1,552 times in that time since. And if he were to hold a press conference every day between now and inauguration, he still wouldn't hold as many as Barack Obama did when he was president-elect. He held 18. George W. Bush as president-elect in that shortened time held 11.
New World Order.
This is Jingyu coal mine in Dengfeng, Henan province. A colliery gas outburst occurred on Wednesday night here. 39 managed to escape straight after the outburst, leaving 5 dead and 7 trapped. There were 51 miners working underground at time of the incidents, which occurred around 9 p.m. on Wednesday. The rescue operation is still underway. The incident occurred at 1,500 meters deep from the coal face, and the tunnel was blocked for about 34 meters as the outburst caused a collapse down there. So the rescue team has to clear the block and get the gas out of the tunnel first before they rescue the people trapped underground. And the press conference will be held later today. That's the latest information from Jingyu coal mine in Dengfeng, Henan province. We'll keep you updated later.
If they want to, they can rip apart the entire healthcare system. They have the votes in the House, they have the votes in the Senate, they have the new president coming in. But know that they really will pull the thread that unravels the entire system. Everybody who has insurance through their employer gets new protections. They can't get dropped if they get sick. The pre-existing conditions. Women now are not rated differently and paying more than men. You can actually have maternity care as part of every single plan, mental health help, opioid addiction help, and all of that goes away for every single person that has insurance. And so we are going to be telling the story and fighting for people, whether it's a 22-year-old who's now on their parents' insurance as they graduate from college, trying to get started in the workplace, or a woman who has Alzheimer's who desperately needs to have long-term care through Medicaid. So this is craziness, Aaron, that's going on right now here with the idea of repealing and unraveling the whole healthcare system, creating instability in 1/6 of the entire economy with no plan to replace it.
So let me ask you, though, because you're listing off the things that you say work about this, but obviously the bottom line is of costs that have surged. And the House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi said she has one regret about Obamacare, one regret, and here's what she says it is.
If there was one thing I would have done differently about the Affordable Care Act right from the start was to message it in a much stronger way.
And that sounds like what you're talking about. You're trying to say, look, the message is this. Think about this, this, and this. You're giving those examples. But there's the bottom line. The average premium for the benchmark silver plan was up 22% this year. If you look at North Carolina, we sent a reporter there right before the election. There is now one statewide carrier. 2 others dropped out. So there's one. It's a monopoly. 63-year-old retiree says he can't afford coverage. $900 a month increase in premiums. How is this problem one of messaging?
No, it's what we need to do is fix that by adding more competition. This is a private marketplace competition way of providing health insurance. And the way that we can fix that, one of the ways, is in areas where there's not choice and competition, is to add a public option, like many of us wanted to do at the very beginning, so there was a true competition in the marketplace. Aaron, I think the important thing right now is to understand I'd be willing to walk from this interview and sit down immediately with Republican colleagues. We've been trying for 6 years to say, let's improve on the system. Let's create more competition, lower prices. I want to tackle issues that relate to small business, but you don't do that by burning down a house. When you say you want to renovate it and make it better, you don't start by burning it down.
Can you say to the American people unequivocally that you did not get this information about the DNC, John Podesta's emails? Can you tell the American people 1,000% you did not get it from Russia or anybody associated with Russia?
We can say, we have said repeatedly over the last 2 months that our source is not the Russian government and it is not a state party.
Over 50,000 emails were released by WikiLeaks during the 2016 U.S. presidential campaign, exposing dubious practices at the Clinton Foundation. And the Obama administration has claimed Russia was behind cyber intrusions meant to interfere with the election. However, Assange said President Barack Obama was trying to delegitimize the Trump administration and wants Americans to think President-elect Trump is not a legitimate president.
I think the president is concerned about the impact that Republicans would have if they make good on their promises to dismantle so much of the progress that we've made over the last 8 years. And his concern is rooted in the fact that millions of Americans have access to health care because of what President Obama and Democrats in Congress were able to achieve with the Affordable Care Act. Rolling that back is going to have a negative impact on the lives of those 22 million Americans, but that's what Republicans are promising to do. Democrats in Congress and the administration worked effectively together to implement the Wall Street reform legislation that has made sure that taxpayers will no longer be on the hook for bailing out big banks who make risky bets that go bad. And they implemented that in a way that the economy still thrived. The stock market more than doubled since that bill was signed into law. And the president is pleased with that progress and is concerned about the impact that it would have on our economy if Republicans roll all that back.
Tonight, Republicans taking their first steps to dismantle Obamacare. But President Barack Obama is rallying his party to defend a centerpiece of his legacy. In meetings with House and Senate Republicans, Vice President-elect Mike Pence making clear that repealing the law will be Donald Trump's top priority as president.
But the first order of business is to repeal and replace Obamacare. And that was our message today, and it'll be our message on Capitol Hill. And it needs to be done.
In the Senate, Republicans voting to pave the way for a repeal in a matter of weeks. But more questions than answers about what the GOP intends to replace it with. And that has rank-and-file Republicans increasingly worried. Speaking to Democrats on a rare trip to Capitol Hill, sources said Obama warned that Republicans would pay a steep political price for trying to gut the law. And he told Democrats not to, quote, rescue the GOP by giving them votes on a replacement plan, worse than the Affordable Care Act. The president branding the new GOP plan Trump Care.
Look out for the American people.
Would you work with them on finding a replacement?
I am not going to cooperate with Republicans when they try to repeal a bill that takes away health care for children, prescription drug cost benefits for seniors. They have no plan to protect seniors. So you're damn right we're going to fight them.
Well, people lose their ability to have quality health care. There will be ramifications for that. But I don't think they're going to differentiate between Democrats and Republicans, quite frankly. I think they're going to hold everybody accountable.
Getting rid of Obamacare was a centerpiece of Donald Trump's campaign.
Repeal and replace with something terrific.
But today, even the president-elect is voicing concern, warning in a series of tweets, Republicans must be careful in that the Dems own the failed Obamacare disaster, adding, don't let the Schumer clowns out of the web. That last comment in reference to the new Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, who called Trump's plan, quote, make America sick again. Schumer has warned that his party won't work with Trump to replace the law if the GOP guts it.
We are telling the Republicans, if you are repealing, show us what you'll replace it with first. They're repealing. We're not. It's their obligation to come up with replace first, and I think we have unanimity within our Democratic caucus on that position.
But not all Democrats agree. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, up for re-election in a conservative state, met with Pence on Wednesday. While he opposes repealing the law, he said he's open to working with Republicans on a replacement.
Well, after the repeal, I'm still going to work. Heck yeah, you've got to work no matter what they do.
Oh, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You know, drawing on all your experience, and you've had lengthy experience in national security, whether as a French diplomat, as a UN diplomat, now as head of the International Crisis Group. Can you explain how ISIS is still out there after more than 2 years of U.S. and coalition bombing? 2017 starts like 2016 ended.
Well, I think whether it's IS or Al-Qaeda, because, by the way, Al-Qaeda is still very much out there, we don't have the right strategy. We think that we can do it on a global scale, while in reality, the causes of IS are very local, where the very harsh tactics of the government radicalized some parts of the opposition. And that's why IS really flourishes on conflict. The best way to stop IS is to prevent conflict.
Okay, well, given that, what do you expect to happen under a Donald Trump who said that his view of IS is just to, bomb the hell out of them? What do you think can be done differently with the new administration?
I do hope that he will not act on his idea of bombing the hell out of IS, because that's not the way to go. The way to stop IS is to have people who feel they have representation in government, and then they move away from radical elements. That has been a proven method wherever there have been terrorists. And the notion that you can just crush them is wrong, because then they disperse. they move to the next country, as we have just seen in Turkey. Now Turkey is being infected by the chaos in Syria. You see in Libya, the chaos in Libya now is spilling over in the Sahel. So you push in one point, you just spread the disease in other countries.
The problem, though, Mr. Guheno, as you know better than most, because you've sat at the top tables while this chaos has been implemented all over the world. Nobody seems to have the patience to talk about governance and to talk about representation of people so that this IS infection doesn't feed on it and grow. And in fact, President-elect Trump says that, again, he's not interested in nation building, and he even believes that he may or may not like Assad, but that Assad is there to fight terrorism, and that's why the U.S. should, with Russia, back that. So Assad is going to stay. Again, how is that going to change?
Well, you see, I think there's been a big shift in the pendulum. There was a time in the early 2000s when both President Bush and the UN thought you could really rebuild the world. I think now we've been chastened. We see that it's much more difficult. But the pendulum shouldn't go in the other direction and think that we can do anything about it. Now, for Assad, the rhetoric of Assad must go did not fit with the reality. Assad is part of the picture, but at the same time, the notion that you can have a stable, long-term Syria with a government that ignores a big chunk of the population, that's not going to work. What I do hope is that between Turkey and Russia, they're going to have some kind of agreement because so that there's a more inclusive government gradually. If that doesn't happen, I think the Russians will be stuck in Syria, and I think they don't want that. So that may be why they can come to a deal with Turkey.
You've written a major piece about the challenges ahead, and you've also said we're about to enter one of the most dangerous decades that you remember, certainly in modern history. Why? Why is this going to be more dangerous than what we've just gone through?
Well, I think, you know, there's a trend that started during the Obama administration, a kind of U.S. retreat. But Obama wanted to compensate that with a very strong support to multilateral institutions, to organizations that create, so to speak, the bricks and mortar of the international system. If you don't have that, if every country thinks it has to look first at its own interest without any consideration for the broader implications, then you can have a lot of wars and clashes, and that's a dangerous situation. The U.S. is by far overwhelming in terms of power, but if the hard power of the U.S. is not made acceptable by a soft power, by a sense that there are principles that guide U.S. policy, then the rest of the world will get very nervous.
And that, because again, Donald Trump has talked about a transactional foreign policy, basically for America's best interest. What is that going to mean?
Well, the world cannot be just a succession of deals. It needs predictability. And in that respect, I think one should be interested in China, because China knows full well that it is a growing power, but it wants it. You heard what they said on climate change. They think this agreement is important. China does not want an unpredictable world. And to avoid an unpredictable world, you need structures. You need more than deals. You know, it's like in business. You have business people who think that you go from one deal to the other, and others who think you have to build a relationship with a client. Well, the world is more the second model than the first.
So if you were to look ahead, what do you consider the most serious challenge and the most difficult one to get to grips with on the world stage coming up, let's say, in the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, I think the way we're going to address the issue of the instability in Europe is major. Because if we see a deepening of the European crisis, if you see the European Union in danger, then one of the major voices, balancing voices in the world will be lost. And during the Obama administration, there was strong support for the European Union. I think it's the best interest of the United States to continue to support the idea of the European Union. And the European Union is going to be challenged in 2017.
Talladega College's Tornado Marching Band is now at the center of a social media firestorm. The historically black school facing backlash after it was announced the band would perform during Donald Trump's inaugural parade. Many African Americans still offended by Trump's campaign, including his unorthodox appeal for black voters' support.
You're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs. What the hell do you have to lose?
Response on Twitter and Facebook to the participation, immediate and emotional. There is no honor in performing for one of the world's most racist people, Donald Trump, one man writes. Another writing, shame on you. While others feeling the nearly 300 band members should participate in the parade. One woman writing that she's proud of this school for breaking the barriers of racism. Another urging students to go for it.
Oh, really? Seriously? No.
When Shirley Farrell heard about her alma mater's potential role in the Trump inauguration, she started a petition urging the college to withdraw. So far, there have been more than 1,300 signatures. A member of the band launched a counter-petition saying this parade is not about politics. It's about seeing firsthand the process of a transition. Still, Farrell thinks it's a bad idea.
We're the oldest historically black college in Alabama. We have a reputation of fighting for freedom and equal rights and justice, and he doesn't stand for any of that.
Farrell says she was most offended by Trump's November 2015 rally in Birmingham. A Black Lives Matter protester was beaten, punched, and kicked by several white men in the crowd.
Trump, from the podium, seemed to encourage that with his words and his behavior.
Trump doubled down several days later.
Maybe he should have been roughed up because it was absolutely disgusting what he was doing.
I don't want the school to give the appearance of supporting him.
The hashtag Talladega College trends on Twitter, but is the battle over the band such a hot topic here? We asked people in Talladega, the center of this controversy, should the band march?
I think it'd be good exposure for Talladega College.
You think they should go? What do you think?
Yeah, they should go.
It's great to have them represent him. You know, they'll try to put him down that he's against black people, one thing or another, which he's not.
It all boils down to what is good for the college and the students.
Ambassador, it's an amazing thing when you stand back and think that the president-elect, it appears to be siding against all the U.S. intelligence agencies and every senior member of his own party in favor of Russia and in concert with Julian Assange. What's your reaction on this?
Well, I'm not sure he's made any kind of a judgment about exactly what to go with, and I don't see it as signing up with Assange, for example. I think he's been skeptical for some time of the intelligence community, and he's said some fairly tough things. But, you know, they're going to have to get used to working for a new boss. He's the one who won the election. And the intelligence community was, frankly, I think, ready, willing, and able to support Hillary. But they were really stunned and not quite ready to try to figure out how to deal with the winner. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time for them to work together.
For intelligence officials?
Well, not in a party sense, no. But I do think I've talked to a number of people in the last several weeks, and I do think there was there were a lot more people in the intelligence business who were ready to work for their Hillary Clinton.
So do you think that they would give Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton different intelligence based upon one being a Democrat and one being a Republican?
No, I don't think they give different intelligence, but what I do think is happening is that there's been a lot of negative statements coming out of the intelligence community, which basically says we would prefer to work for Hillary Clinton rather than for Donald Trump, but they don't get to decide.
With all due respect, Ambassador, do you think the intelligence is wrong?
Which intelligence?
The intelligence that said Russia interfered with the election or hacked the election.
Well, I think certainly there has been some vigorous Russian activity. I think there's no doubt about that. But the key thing is, did it have or have a chance to have any impact on the vote counting, on the voting machines? And it looks like, whoever did it, maybe some of it, of course, Russian, was not successful in getting anything done in the voting machines, and also
I don't think that any intelligence agency has
let me
said
add
it
one
would,
point.
it would have changed the outcome of the election. I don't think it would have
right.
said it would change the outcome of the election, but they did scan voter rolls.
There's an important point, which is that in an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today, it makes clear that the software was being used here is really quite primitive, and there are thousands and thousands, as the article puts it, of networks that have been hacked to some extent by this software. Mm-hmm. So you're not in a world in which it looks like any of this has had any impact on who won the election, which is good. What we need to do is make sure that we get these machines operating correctly and the right kinds of them within the next 2 years, so this kind of risk and danger doesn't loom up again. And things that have no paper trail devices like that cannot effectively be checked after the fact in recounts.
I want Kirsten to get in. So Kirsten, I mean, you know, every single intelligence agency has said that Russia had some role in the election. And as I pointed out to the ambassador, they don't believe it would have changed the outcome of the election, although they did scan voter rolls, which is frightening that they could even get that far. What do you make of what Donald Trump is saying, what the ambassador just said?
Well, I guess the one question I would have for the ambassador, I guess, is you were a former CIA director. Would you have listened to Julian Assange, or would you have listened to your intelligence officials at the CIA?
No, I don't think there's any point in listening to Julian Assange. He's quite a ne'er-do-well, I think.
So would you then you wouldn't do what Donald Trump is doing then? You would listen to the CIA analysts over Julian Assange?
Well, I don't think I have to pick only the CIA analysts. There are lots of people I would listen to with respect to something like this. One, I just mentioned the fellow at AEI who's the author of the op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today. That's a very important insight on his part, and he's neither is he Julian Assange nor is he somebody who works for the CIA.
But you would listen to you'd listen to somebody from AEI over the CIA analysts?
I would listen to someone who is, I think, making a cogent point and doing it with good evidence. I don't start from the proposition of I'll listen to X because I like him
you have
or
16
don't
or
like
17
him.
intelligence agencies that are basically doing
So here's the thing. I think that, look,
well,
it's
not really.
Let's not forget, this isn't just about Russia. This is also about the DNC. This is also about Podesta as well. And there's evidence for all of it.
I actually don't think there's a problem with what Donald Trump is saying about some of the politicization of intelligence. I think the question is, where is he getting this alternate theory, right? So if you're going to say that the analysts aren't giving you good information, and you're coming up with this other stream of information and making these accusations,
the counter argument, and
where's it coming from? Who's giving it to you? Yeah. That's what I don't understand.
He has said he knows more.
But
he's
from
going
whom?
to present more within the next day or so.
But who is he getting this information from, even theoretically?
Can you say to the American people unequivocally that you did not get this information about the DNC, John Podesta's emails? Can you tell the American people 1,000% you did not get it from Russia or anybody associated with Russia?
We can say, we have said repeatedly over the last 2 months that our source is not the Russian government and it is not a state party.
Over 50,000 emails were released by WikiLeaks during the 2016 U.S. presidential campaign, exposing dubious practices at the Clinton Foundation. And the Obama administration has claimed Russia was behind cyber intrusions meant to interfere with the election. However, Assange said President Barack Obama was trying to delegitimize the Trump administration and wants Americans to think President-elect Trump is not a legitimate president.